Still going after the bearing. Set that over there with your other large bearings. That leaves you with your rear brush motor, 3.8 RPMs. Remember earlier I said it was less than the RPMs on the front brushes. And just like the ones from the front, you've got 4 screws, but the difference is both points on this one are top flush. So all of these screws are going to mount to the front. And again, all screws in these units, with the exception of the battery straps, should be Phillips head screws. We have had some older models that for whatever reason have come in and gone out, or vice versa, with Allen wrench screws. That was rough, not gonna lie. That was a test in patience. Before I do the bottom ones, I'm gonna take my little small flat head and get up in here and disconnect the electrical points. That way I don't pull from the actual wire. Now you will notice we've got the lithium grease all over the worm gear, as well as all over the pinion gear. There are some instances where these may come to you pre-greased. A lot of it just depends on how we received them. Yes, this would be easier with a drill. However, our warehouse workers have got those. Keeping all of our 007 screws, however many zeros there are in that number. I want to say it's like 5 zeros in that number. They're all the same. And again, this screw in the motor pinion is going to go into the brush holder. So I have to actually hold the brush holder. Go ahead and take that off just to make this a little easier now that I've got it loosened up. That worm gear is held in place by a micro pin. The rear brush micro pin is a little easier to access because you just take the rear motor off. The front brush motor pin can be a little more tricky because those motors are mounted. One set of screws going through the top, one going through the bottom. You need to take the front brush motors off before you try and actually change the worm gear. My co-worker and I would highly recommend that you secure the worm gear on something solid, because otherwise when you go to try and remove that, and she will testify, that thing will twist and turn on you. Gets a little squirrely sometimes. Notice I've got lithium grease all on my fingers. That's all right. We removed our screw. This is our motor pinion washer. It too comes off with the bearing already on it. That bearing is necessary. Leave it as it is. We've had some questions, so here it is. The washer pinion kit is that right there. That is ready to slide into your sweeper. Okay, friends, so that has got all of the rear wheel components removed. Okay. The easiest way to go about removing the rake that I have found is to actually go ahead at this point in time, flip your sweeper upside down, go ahead while you've got it here and pry your last remaining brush holder off. Just like before. You can pop your spool protection ring off. That bearing is still right there on the center of your donut holder, also known as your brush holder. If you need to pop it off, you can. I showed you how to do that earlier. You don't have to. Spool protection ring should just snap right on into place. Line it up with your little divots. It snaps in just as pretty as you please. That is that push tab to remove the rear brush. Now, find the frame of your rake. Follow it to where you get in between it and the frame of your machine. There is a small little piece. I'll show you in just a second. This actually protrudes into the side wall of the frame, so this is what you're releasing from that. If we're doing a frame change, don't worry about messing with the seals or anything on your rake. It should just be set to the side. Your sweeping lip is still in place. Our sweeper is starting to look a whole lot emptier. For those that don't know, easiest way, turn your oblique wheels. These are your front wheels. They are called your oblique wheels. Turn them to where they are facing each other. I scare my coworker every time I do that. I forget to warn her that I'm going to do that. My bad. Sorry, Jen. Okay, so one thing about the 677 that is different in the front wheel area than the 697 is the fact that for the 677, you need your height adjustment set on the lowest setting. You have on the end of your slider adjustment arms a little receiver block that actually accepts the upper portion of the stem on the oblique wheels, okay? Once you get that height adjustment to where everything is nice and straight out, you can then pull your wheels up and out. And this is that little part that is caught up in that receiver block. Okay, now comes the fun part for somebody like me. Get up in here. Get up underneath it, hold the frame. And again, by any means necessary, I believe Greg said, don't be a namby-pamby. Just like that. He made it look so easy. Please be very careful. You've got some sharp edges on these frames. Y'all didn't want to see me almost hit myself in the face with the brush, but we finally got it. All right. Set this over to the side. Now, I'm going to show you what all is up in here. Y'all didn't want to see me almost hit myself in the face with the brush, but we finally got it. Alright. Set this over to the side. Now, I'm going to show you what all is up in here. this is what we're left with. These used to be known as your pivot housings. I believe they're now called bearing pins. They're still pivot housings to us. They look like upside down white traffic cones. You are going to go after every single screw that holds them in place, both of them. Again, note, standard Phillips head screws. Okay, everybody, so my boss was kind enough to let me go grab a drill, so I have already undone the screws from that pivot housing, as well as this pivot housing. Since we're going to be rebuilding, I'm just going to leave them in for this purpose. I've also gone ahead and removed the screw here for the worm gear cover. You want to make certain that that is protected from all of the stuff that you are picking up, because with this lithium grease on them, they will collect that. See? Take these off. And then you're ready to go after your last remaining screws. Right there. These are the last 4, guys. You got this. Okay, so remember me telling you about the little receiver portion on the end of your adjusting arms here? They connect underneath your height adjustment button. They go all the way over, and this is where your oblique wheel is going into. This is why you start it down here, and then once you get it inserted, you will turn the height adjustment knob to lock them in. Right now, because we're doing a frame change, this is where I want you to see, because this is where I need you to have some finesse, okay? I will wreck these in a heartbeat. So if you do it, please do not stress. It is very easy to do this. But these are little tension posts. Don't grab a pair of pliers and try and squeeze them and then lift this piece off. You will break these legs. They flex very easily, and when you pinch them like that, you can't get this ring up over them. I've tried it. Same with this one. So what you're going to do, okay, you'll notice I have them kind of turned a little bit at an angle. What I'm going to end up doing is taking a flathead screwdriver, and I am actually going to slide in here and flex this inward while I use my other hand to lift up on this arm. That is how you're going to remove these arms from underneath this height adjustment knob. Because I'm doing this solo, I'll be back. Please note, I have got them just up and ready to pull off of here, okay? But the reason I wanted to stop and show you is because you have this little window that they go through. I just work with it still in place. It's gonna get a little cattywampus, but it just slides right in there, okay? So no worries and no stress. All we're gonna do now is remove these. Okay, your little window came with it. Set those to the side. Then we are going to carefully, very carefully, flex these locking tabs to slide this knob out from underneath. I'll be back. Okay, my knob is out, and all I did was slide my sweeper off the end of the table just like this, so that I could actually flex my tabs right there. I flexed one just past these little notches, and I pressed it inward so that it would come out the bottom, and I could then easily flex the other leg, and the whole knob came out. Now, we're gonna have some fun and make a lot of noise with these pieces right here, also known as your knob and guider. Here is your empty sweeper frame. This is your motor cable hole right there. That's where we're going to be feeding this cable through. All right, so I've got my small end. I'm going in through my motor cable hole, and I am going to put one motor connection in to the hole at a time and just feed them through. Once I get both of the connectors in, I'm just going to go ahead and give myself enough wire to play with. Once you've got enough wire to play with, because remember, you can always pull out some of the extra. You might want to go ahead and flip the frame upside down to make this part a little easier. And you have to go in between this little crease in the frame. So turning it upside down makes it a little easier to be able to see. Got it. Once they are in, pull that cable on through if you need to. Perfect. Okay, so now then, grab your rear brush motor and all of your 4 screws. There it is. Now, again, this one is a 4.2. That is not our rear brush motor. Found it. Okay, so the cable wire's been pulled through. I've got the rear motor, 3.8 RPMs. I've got it in position. All right. You can then, not trying to advertise, go ahead and plug your wires in. If you remembered, it is blue on the right and it is red on the left. Make certain they are solidly connected. And then, don't start putting other things on till you put your rake back on. So, we're not ready to put our rake back on yet, so we're going to go back to the front, put in our height adjustment knob and our arms, okay? I'll be right back as soon as I get it set up. Okay, so because I'm doing this one by myself, I have had to go ahead and finagle this and get it in place here, okay? Now, when you take these arms off and you keep these little windows with them, it's gonna take you just a minute to kind of orient yourself. But what you're looking for is the little tab frame portion on here. That will kind of dictate to you how you slide this in, okay? And this one over here has the R on it. And this one has the left. Once you get them in place, they lock in and kind of stay in very nicely, even though they're just kind of a slide in piece. These pieces right here go on much easier than they pop off, okay? So no tool required for those. I just used my little fingers here, not a big deal, okay? And with the button, all I did was go in from the bottom and push in one of the tabs to make certain that as I inserted it at an angle, everything popped in like it should, okay? So now remember what I told you about the wheel stems, okay? We're gonna go ahead and turn this to where they will kind of go back into the center portion area. So I have the adjusting button turned to where my slider arms have pulled inward. We should be good to go. The next thing I'm going to do is our pivot housings or our bearing pins. We're going to get those screwed back into place so that we will have something for everything to start going back on top of. Okay, so one of the things I need you to factor in when you're getting ready to do this is the underneath side of these pivot housings, okay? Now I'm going to show you why. You have got this up underneath. Now, if you can see this, this is mildly offset center. So it's not perfectly centered. And you also have extra little locking locations right there that are going to correspond with these little points that are sticking up inside of here. I'm going to pick you up and show you here. These are the points that I'm talking about. Screw holes, locking points. Those are stabilizing points. When you get this positioned correctly, everything will fit down right on top of there and all screws will go into their respective screw holes here, okay? These are your points, screw holes. Here we go. Okay, so screws are in place. Once I had them positioned, they sat down very nicely. I have got my rear brush motors in position. I have not locked them in because I wanted you to see, okay? I've just got them kind of in the area they're going to be. I've got my anchor screws in my points here for connection. I'm going to go ahead and get them secured. And these right here are the 2 points that you're going to connect this at. Either side. Hang on, let me move this one so you can see. But they are literally the 2 screw mounts right in front of the motor hole. All right, so now we're going in for the worm cover. My co-worker has decided to graciously assist me so that y'all can see. Slide it over the worm gear and line it up with the post hole here. Now you are going to notice that I have not solidly anchored my motor yet, and this is why. Go ahead and get this started here. Now you can go in tighten down your screws, slide it back into place, get your screw in position. And then back just a wee bit. All right, I left these slightly loose so that I could fit the worm gear right down in this little white tab area, okay? So if you need to, leave those a little loose and anchor them down after everything is in place. I went back, I tightened my screw after I got everything in place, okay? So we're nice and tight in here. Okay, so now we are back to installing the guider. And remember I told you that it had a nice little notch in it that corresponds with this channel, okay? I've got it lined up, and I'm gonna actually have to take a hammer and drive this back in to where it'll go in appropriately and seat. But no sense in you listening to me whack away at this thing. All right, I've got it in position. I'm gonna flip the machine back upright and install the knob. Okay, so all I'm going to do is match up. Let's see if I can get it in here. You see that little tab right in there? I'm gonna match it up with the groove right there. It is now locked and loaded and ready for action. Okay, so I've got the machine upside down and I've got the rear of the machine towards me, okay? I've got the rake installed in a pseudo fashion so that you can see these points right here on the frame, meaning the hole that goes through from here. This is where you are going to be lining everything up, okay? So we're gonna get these lined up, and when you get them lined up, all you're doing is flexing the machine right here so that you can slide that hole right there into that receiver hole. The rake has been finessed into position. Now we're gonna start on some of the rear wheel components that go in through the rake. Okay, so remember, the ones that I took apart, I had to make certain my small bearing went back on the actual donut holder portion, aka the post of the brush holder, and I put my spool protection ring in place. These will literally just snap right into here. Less of a snap, more of a grab, but you get the idea. Now, again, we're standing behind the sweeper, so our left rear wheel is going to contain our manual drive components. The right contains the motor drive components. Manual drive side, I have got my bearing already on my washer pinion, aka the manual pinion, excuse me, right here, 400/811 with the small bearing. I'm going to go ahead and anchor it in place with the screw. Okay, so the manual side pinion has been screwed into place. If I turn it here, brush holder's turning over here. Okay. Next, we're going to install our bearings onto our shafts, and we will go ahead and install the motor drive pinion. Okay, so a wise man once told me earlier today that the best way to get these bearings on is actually to take a flathead screwdriver and a mallet, and you're just going to tap top on that center ring right there, and then on the bottom as well, alternating. I followed that wise man's advice, and those are on there. I have already inserted the washer pinion, and I've got my pinion already in place according to the little spring mechanism in there. So all we're going to do now is insert our screw and our little screw washer into that pinion. Okay, so I have screwed it in there. It got a little tight, so I backed it out just a wee bit. I'm giving it a test with the brush holder. All I'm doing is turning this right here. And I believe we are successful. Manual drive side, I have got my clutch element right here, and I have got my large toothed wheel gear in place. All I have done now is enclose the manual drive side with the tire by putting it on. I made certain that my clutch element was in place on the interior portion, and I also have the bearing back in place. Everything is ready to be locked in with our wheel clamp. Divots are always going to be at 12 and 6. We'll do that in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and mount the motor drive side tire onto the rear wheel area. And again, motor drive side does not get anything in here. It is all right here, except for we are going to make certain that our large ring bearing goes on the interior of the outside. It's mounted. I made certain to press all the way around. That thing is on. Notice this one has nothing to turn that brush with until that motor is turned on. Once you have your wheel holder in place with the little divot at 12 and 6, mallet that bad boy back in there. Take just a moment to test your work and what you have done by pushing it forward, making certain that brush turns the way it's supposed to. You always want it putting the dirt into the waste bin. Now I am just going to go ahead and secure my front brush motors in place by applying the screws into their respective slots. That should now have all of your Phillips head screws back in place within your machine. We're going to go ahead and get our fuse holder back in place so that we can put our switch plate back on top. Fuse holder back in place, back wall back behind the battery compartment, and there's your fuse holder. Still ready to go on with the switch plate, but I got to hook up our motor wires. All right, so you got to remember your little connections right here go to your motors. And then you've got one set of large connections that go to your battery. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the battery strap install. We're just going to do the side ones right here. Now, on this side, you're going to need the side strap that has the little window for your cables. You'll also need your Allen wrench screws. And don't forget the little nut. Okay, so our side battery straps are in. Just for the record, I had to actually hold the nut up underneath in its appropriate spot and then twist the strap to get the screw to go into the nut. It's a little difficult, but it's okay. It's not a problem. I got it done. Both sides are nice and secure. I'm going to run my battery wire through there and then we'll get the battery installed. Battery is strapped back in. Wires have been run accordingly. Now we're ready to install the brushes on the front. All right, everybody, we've got the brushes put back on, locked into place with the wheels. Don't forget, we've got the video to show you the brush install as well as the height adjustment lock-in for those wheels. But I already showed you that slider arm. So all I had to do was once I had my wheels put down into the front of the broom brushes, I just simply took my height adjustment knob, reached down, and I gave it a crank so that it would slide outwards and lock those wheels in. We are good here, and we are good here. I'm going to flip it upside down so we can do a test run. I'll also get those molded recess, aka handle holders, in place. Okay, so we've got her all back together. I had the brushes installed. Before I locked them in, I went ahead and I had my wheels put in. I locked those in, and then I did a test run. And I had this broom brush turning, but not this one. So upon further inspection, we had the wires reversed on this one's front brush motor. Okay, so if you've got one that is turning and you know everything else is correct, because I had checked the direction of my broom brushes, the whole 9 yards, check the wiring on your motors. Don't overlook the smallest thing. All I had to do was get another brain and another set of eyes involved in it. She helped me eyeball it, and we got it taken care of. So I'm going to put the handle holders back on and the waste bin, and we will have her complete. Okay, don't forget, you've got this notch. Find the notch on there, and you're going to line them up so that it goes in, and when you turn it, it locks into place. Just like that. Filter set was slid back in, cover applied, waste bin applied. We are done.